What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. This is Callville Bay. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gents, it's been quite windy the last couple of weeks here in the Las Vegas Valley. And don't get me wrong, when it's 40 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit, a little bit of wind goes a long way, but it also does make filming videos quite difficult. So for that reason, I thought of coming here to Callville Bay, seeing as how we have some mountains on the sides. Maybe it will shade us from some of the wind we're having. But the plan for today is take out the little SS Minnow, my little float tube, and go out there, see if we get any fish. The big problem is we have to go out all the way out of the marina. You have to be outside the marina, outside the boundary walls before you can start fishing. So we have a pretty long way to go, so let's get out there. Alright, ladies and gents, we made it out onto the water. Quite a hike to get to a launchable spot, but we're in the water, and this time around we have some flippers so we can get out into deeper water a lot quicker. Another change I made, I have the little microphone for this camera on my hat. Last time when it was on my chest, I had quite a lot of noise, a little life vest, as well as my constant breathing, so hopefully having it on a different spot will make all the difference. I would love to be trolling some lures behind me at the moment, but we are still inside the marina, not allowed to fish here, so I'll bring you guys back when we're outside the marina. It took about half an hour to get all the way out of the marina. I'm on the outside of the marina boundary wall, but I'm interested in knowing how deep it is out here where I'm actually trying to fish. For that, I'm going to use a little fish finder. This is just a cheap little fish finder. It's not something that's going to help me get on fish, it's just to give me basic information. This little thing is picking up quite a lot of fish below me, but it's also showing 12.3 meters. 3 feet is 1 meter, so if you times 12 by 3 you get 36 feet. Seeing quite a lot of fish down there. Not really know how accurate this thing is if we do have that much fish down there. This thing shows the fish from 10 meters all the way down to 12 meters. If there are that much fish down there, you might be in a good spot. Alright, so I got my one rod baited with anchovies. That's down in the water. See if there's any stripers or maybe some catfish around. I know people have also caught carp using anchovies, but that's not what we're targeting. That's why I'm using a bit of a bigger reel. If we get any bigger fish, this reel should be able to handle it. On the second rod, however, I'm going to be throwing around some lures, trying to see if some moving action might get some fish excited. But I'm not seeing any fish in the top column of the water, so I'm thinking they're down deeper. So I'm starting off with a little Ned rig. I'm going to throw around the tires, try to see if there's any fish down below me. Because we're fishing deep water, I'm opening my bail, letting some line out, making sure our little Ned rig goes all the way down to the bottom. Otherwise we're just going to move it in the top part of the water column. That's not going to work. This needs to be down on the bottom. It's a shame that it's such a big hike to get out to this little sand dune, because I think this sand dune will also do some pretty nice fishing. It drops off quite quickly into deep water. So far I've been seeing quite a lot of carp in the area. Don't know, maybe there are some other fish around, but as far as I can see, only carp and shad jumping around. Maybe need to move around and find out where the fish are. Alright guys, so throwing around a little Ned rig. I think we have a fish on. It's going to be a small fish. and it's a small striper. Got anchovies in the water, but I'm catching a little striper on a Ned rig. Guess there's a first for everything. Tiny little striper. Lovely to get one on a Ned rig, on artificial, but let's get him back into the water. And there he goes. One good quick kick and he's off. Using a little orange and green type Ned rig. Weird thing was, this was not on the bottom. It was when I was busy bringing it up towards me that that little striper hit this thing. Just had a big carp come look at me. But at the moment we're having quite a lot of waves, a lot of people on the boats not listening to the no wake zone sign. So just quickly want to ride out these waves. So I'm next to this little dock thing, kind of shields me a bit from the waves. So I'm outside the marina, outside of the tires, but there's a little dock here. I'm in between the two. And so far I've been struggling quite a lot with the little lures, been throwing around all sorts of lures, but I'm not seeing any bass or not getting any bass to follow any of my lures. So maybe I should consider using some other type of lure, seeing how I'm seeing quite a lot of small stripers going for our little anchovies. Alright guys, finally have a hit on the anchovies. Staying down, so probably channel catfish. That's okay. I'll be happy to catch anything at this point. Been out here now for more than an hour without any bites. So finally getting on something. And indeed, we have ourselves a little channel catfish. Don't want to get spined by these guys, so quickly gonna get my lip grips. Alright, so we got ourselves channel catfish. Not the biggest catfish, but happy to get a fish at least. Been out here for a while now, getting something on the anchovies. It's a good sign. So we're not going to spend too much time with this little catfish. Let's release him. And off he goes. Second little fish on the board. Finally got something on the baits. That means maybe the fish are starting to circle this area. So let's get some baits down there again. Alright guys, not even 10 minutes later and we're on another fish. This little ugly stick, the dock runner, is going through its paces, catching fish. And there we go, another channel catfish. I think we're getting the channel catfish all hungry and feeding below me. Seems as if the sun gets higher, they move into deeper water looking for shade. And these little docks and tires, great place for them to find shade. Got him hooked nice in the corner of the mouth. Alright, so just want to give our little fish some oxygen. Now I know it's very unlikely that you catch the same fish directly after releasing it, but this fish strangely looks just like the one I caught. He also has the same patterns on his mouth, so maybe it's the same one, I don't know. But let's release this little guy. It would be weird if it's the same one and he just keeps going down for my baits. But let's release him. And off he goes. We're getting some hits on our little dock runner, but we want that thing to bend over completely, otherwise it's just small fish. Maybe they don't have the hook. Still getting tiny little taps on the rod. Let's bring in, see if we still have bait left or whether we have a fish on. We do have a fish on. It's a very small striper. So this little striper swallowed our hook. I'm not going to be able to get it out there without damaging his gills. So I'm going to cut off the line as deep as I can. And then we're just going to release our little striper. And there he goes. Now, believe it or not, sometimes it's better to leave the hook in the fish, especially if it's hooked very deep in the back of the throat. If you have to try and remove that hook, it's going to damage the fish. So sometimes it's better to just leave it. It does not take that long, but it will rust out. It's now midday, and it's been fun floating around in the water trying to find some fish. If you're wondering how I'm staying attached to this little dock, I'm using some paracord. I think something like 30 feet's worth, and at the end of that I have a little crowbar, a little metal crowbar that I use, and I just secure it either around something like this or hook it onto one of the tires. That's how I kind of stay in one place. But for now I'm going to untie this and kind of float back that way, see if maybe if floating we can find some fish. Just a nice day at the office, just floating about. Now, I'm not going to prolong this any more than it should. I want to thank you guys for following me on this trip out there. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting the subscribe button, joining my community. Please do give me a little thumbs up if you enjoyed the video or learned something from it. And of course, feel free to ask any questions down below in the comments. I do try and answer all you guys. Right, but I think that's going to do for this round. Thank you guys for following me. And like always, I'll see you next time.